Hello everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to ChasingCinema.com's official YouTube channel. Yes, again, I know I'm late. I'm 2 weeks behind. I'm sorry. The end of October, the beginning of November has been completely crazy, but I can't keep false promising you this. I know you're like, Jake, I've heard it all. I don't want to hear any more excuses. I promise I'm going to get back on track. I'm going to be releasing my week 43, which I'm doing right now, and my week 44 update, which you can click on that white eye. You can also see our brand new review of Arrival, the new science fiction film with Jeremy Renner and Amy Adams, as well as my review joined by Josh Bell and James Shue for Hacksaw Ridge. Make sure to go check all of those out. But let's hop in my week 43 update, so I can get you guys back up to speed real quick. We're going to start off with day 295, in which I watched the Denmark horror film from 2015 called What We Become. I thought What We Become is a solid zombie film that rewards patience. It's a relatively slow-paced film with an explosive climax. It lacks originality and falls under many common zombie tropes, but its style, its score, and visuals are really what kind of separate this movie. Like many of the movies that I enjoyed during October, the month of horror and thrillers, What We Become really does rely on tension. Cleverly as well. It cleverly relies on tension. It doesn't go for those typical shots and this impending feeling of dread that falls over the viewer rather than gore. That is what makes this movie, like so many of the other ones that I've enjoyed, work. At least for the majority of the picture. But the film does have some really extreme and gory, solid-looking moments for zombie lovers. So I'm not saying that it doesn't do that. It just really relies, for the majority of the picture, on those elements. It's a solid horror film. It's skillfully directed and has a great payoff. But I only fear that I think I won't remember it. And now to say, day 295, I'm on day 312 right now. I don't remember much about it, and that's kind of sad. But I overall still thought it was a movie that people should see. Moving forward, I'm going to be reviewing day 296, which I watched the 2013 horror film, We Are What We Are. Now, this is a wonderful blend of drama and horror, and a blend of style and artistry and gore and blood. I mean, style and artistry blended with gore and blood, you have We Are What We Are. It's another film that takes a lot of patience. But in the end, you have a blood-splattering reward for those scary movie fans. It's really well crafted, and I found myself admiring the style rather than the story of characters. It's a solid and richer horror film, but like What We Become, I also fear this movie doesn't have enough to sustain memory. However, I will say I vividly remember We Are What We Are opposed to What We Become now 3 weeks later. So check that one out. I really enjoyed that film as well. It didn't have a great impact on me as much as like Housebound or We Are Still Here, but it's easily worth a watch. Now, I know that Halloween is technically over, but if you're still looking for some good horrors, this could possibly be one of them. Day 297 of 365 Day Movie Challenge, I watched the 1981 horror film, The Howling. And The Howling is easily one of the best werewolf movies ever made. I had such a good time watching this movie. I was entertained, I was laughing, I was, just having a blast. It really blends horror and satire quite well. Again, like Housebound, not going over the top, but really taking this interesting approach to satire with the use of horror. It delivers a memorable and compelling story, actually, and it offers some really incredible practical effects. Like, in the day of CGI, this movie wouldn't have worked as well as I think it does because of the practical effects. The way that they show these transformation sequences, which are, so these werewolves in the movie are designed to the point where they look unforgettable. They're both seriously vicious and even a bit demonic. And there is this one terrific transformation sequence that looks real to this day. It blew me away. And because they don't use CGI, those practical effects really drive home the reality of it. Because I think with CGI, though it might look more appropriate for today's era, it doesn't look as clean. And I think that was really impressive on The Howling's end. Furthermore, this movie has a famous ending that just brings the film to a next level. It's a great 80s horror movie. I think that if you watch it, it won't scare you per se, but I think that those who love the 80s will really appreciate this movie. The next day, on day 298, I watched the thriller from Ron Howard, Inferno. Inferno is the third installment of the Da Vinci Code franchise. I don't believe it's a third book. I believe it's the fourth book, but it is the third film. And to be honest, this was a movie that I really didn't like, but I'm not going to get into it because I've already reviewed it. You click that white eye, a bunch of links will drop down. Click on my review of Inferno. Day 299, I watched Dracula Has Risen from the Grave. My first Hammer collection film, and I found myself really enjoying it. The best element, though, like what stands out and what really probably made these movies either forgettable to something that people really cherish, is the performance of Christopher Lee as Count Dracula. It is a bit slow and doesn't have as much Dracula as you'd like, and I think that really takes away from the movie, but it does offer some wonderful cinematography and has some really great visuals, especially when Dracula meets his end at the very climax of the picture. It also creates this really interesting tone and atmosphere. But I did feel a bit unsatisfied, I can't lie, and I wanted more Dracula. Now granted, this being my first Hammer film collection means I should have started. This is a third or fourth installment in the Dracula of the Hammer collection, but don't worry, I'm going to be exploring more Hammer collections down the road. Day 300 of the 365-day movie challenge, I watched the 1960 film from the UK, Village of the Damned. And Village of the Damned may be the eeriest film that I've discovered in my month of horror and thrillers. It is a simple film, and it's actually quite vague, but it benefits for that because it's so mysterious. Village of the Damned works to such a level because of the direction and clever script. It just keeps us wanting more. I honestly could say that this was one of my favorite movies that I've seen in this challenge. Now, when this challenge is over, 43, so in about 23, oh no, not 23 more weeks, that's days. About 9 more weeks, this will all be over, and then in 10 weeks, I will make my favorite movies that I discovered on this challenge. And I think Village of the Damned is going to be on it because instead of telling us all the details, it leaves a lot to our imagination. It's sharp and it knows what it's doing. It also creates a hell of an atmosphere and tone, and I know I've been bringing that up a lot, talking about the movies of horror, but that's a really important element of horror. And when a movie can do it correctly or does something differently, it really makes it effective. The reason why horror movies work the way they do, because the way they make you feel, the way they make the atmosphere feel, and this movie really creates a chilling tone, and it is very, very memorable. It's incredibly dark, it's intense, and offers some really horrifying visuals. For instance, showing children force a man to kill himself. I mean, it's pretty powerful, and I'd honestly say one of my favorite films from the UK. It's a masterful film, it's haunting, it's perfectly paced, and has really great performances. This, along with The Wicker Man, have been unbelievable discoveries. In day 301 of the 365-day movie challenge, I watched Dracula Has Risen from the Grave. Oh no, excuse me, Taste the Blood of Dracula. Taste the Blood of Dracula was not nearly as appealing as Dracula Has Risen from the Grave. It didn't hold my interest very intently. It did, however, offer another solid performance from Christopher Lee, a beautiful and gothic atmosphere, but it still lacked this intriguing storyline or interesting, rounded characters besides Dracula. But he's not even have this really important performance in it. It just felt like it didn't have any purpose or passion. It just felt like it was being made to be made, and that's a shame because, again, this is my only second experience exploring the Hammer collection, and that was kind of disappointing. I will say I had a successful week 43 update. Again, check that white eye. You can see my reviews for Arrival, Hacksaw Ridge, Inferno, which I saw during this week of the challenge as well. Also, you can check out week 44, which is already up. Guys, thank you so much for being patient with me. Thank you so much for checking this out. If you have any recommendations, rate them down below in the comment sections below. I got some wonderful foreign film recommendations last time. I will be checking out some of those during my challenge. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure to hit that thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Make sure to hit subscribe so you never miss a review or anything that I do here on ChasingCinema.com. My name is Jacob Tiranno, and please continue chasing cinema.